voices. Voices, voices, voices. People are hearing voices. People are doing crazy stuff. I saw this clip. I have put it on my Facebook of this young man who, good day, love, good day, family. I have put this clip of this young man who killed his two friends. He killed his two best friends, and they had him in the jail, and he was looking. It reminded me of man, that red-headed boy that I saw, the theater shooting. So what I'm getting at is there's a lot of MK patients running around. We don't know ourselves. There's some tools that have been being used against us. This is what I wanted to show you. He's really trying to get it right together. Oops. You can find this clip on my Facebook. You can read the title, find it in the news clips. That look, he's like, I'm caught. Okay, so basically, what I want to talk about is the voices that people are hearing. I kind of have some first-hand experience with this. It's amazing how things come full circle. So, for a while now, we've been watching these weird captures, right? These strange scenarios where these young folks go out and do these mass killings, mass murders, right? And then we see them in the courtroom, and they look like they have no freaking clue as to what they just did. Like they're fighting for clarity to even realize why the heck they're even in the courtroom. We know from looking at the straw man stuff and looking at we know that the judicial system needs some serious overhaul. Okay, so I'm not trying to talk about the judicial system. I do want to take a look at mental health and how we need to seriously take a part in our own deprogramming. Okay? That young man is somebody's son, somebody's friend, probably somebody's lover, somebody's brother, possibly. It could have been anybody. And this is the reason why I say that. We don't know ourselves. We weren't programmed to know ourselves. We're programmed to be the initiator of somebody else's program, orchestrated through ourselves. Okay? The social constructs. It's the way our society is. This is my, how to get out my psychology books, right? The fact that you share a similar culture with others helps to define the group of society in which you belong. A fairly large number of people are said to constitute a society. When they live in the same territory, are relatively independent of people outside of their area, and practice in a common culture. Social programming, okay? A society is a large form of human group. It consists of people who share a common heritage and culture. Members of society learn this culture and transmit it from one generation to the next. They even preserve their distinctive culture through literature, art, videos, recordings, and other means of expression. What? We record stuff, y'all. As a group. Like an album. You know? Are you a sentence or a word on a 45 that gets added to an album? Does somebody have a body of work going on that we're collecting inside of ourselves as a society? Innovation. So I wanted you to know that this stuff is so embedding. It's so embedded. I'm not just pulling it all from out there. But the messages come a lot of times from beyond, and I confirm it by way of stuff that's already here. Or it gets confirmed for me. It just comes to me. Sometimes things come from the heart, from my own personal experiences. And that's the way we change this matrix. Innovation. I've been talking a lot about collaboration, innovation. This is groupthink, the programming, the society. Sociology is the groupthink. It's the group consciousness. Okay? Innovation. The process of introducing a new idea or object to a culture is known as innovation. Discovery involves making known or sharing their experiences of an aspect of reality. The finding of the DNA module and the identification of a new moon of Saturn are both acts of discovery. NASA. Being programmed. with other people's indoctrination. By contrast, an invention results when existing cultural items are combined into a form that did not exist before. Globalization. Escalating globalization of culture. Globalization is a worldwide integration of government, policies, cultures, social movements, and financial markets through trade and the exchange of ideas. What's going on with the straw man? What's going on with us? What's going on now that our dollar, the value of our dollar has gone down? What's going on with our innovation, with our new ideas, with us mixing it up and finding commerce? What's going on with our minds? We're seeing a lot of this stuff, though. Why is this program being initiated? People just losing their minds. Diffusion. To refer to the process by which the cultural item spreads from group to group or society to society. Diffusion can occur through a variety of means, among them exploration, military conquest, missionary work, the influence of the mass media, tourism, and the internet. What? Sociologist George Ritzer coined the term McDonaldization of society to describe how the principle of fast food restaurants developed in the United States have come to dominate more and more sectors of societies throughout the world. This dude didn't like Mickey D's, so he coined a phrase for it. In the picture you see is Santa Claus showing the migration of an idea. See, in Vietnam, Santa Claus rides a bicycle loaded with gifts. The observation of the Western holidays in non-Western countries is one sign of globalization. They mix it up a little. They change it. What am I saying here? What am I getting at? We got new technology. We have brain reading. Satellite brain reading technology. Voice to skull technology. Okay? The opposite sides of the spectrum. We got technology that can put thoughts in your head. Check out the voice to skull technology that was used in Iran during the war, where the soldiers actually thought they heard the voice of God. That's why it's called the voice of God technology. They thought they heard the voice of God inside their brains and put down their weapons. Easy peasy. Voice to skull technology. And then we have satellite brain reading technology. So whatever is already in there that you're thinking about can already be extracted. Who's afraid of Virginia Woolf? Looks like the whole freaking world's afraid of the female principle. The part of us that thinks and wants to create. It's like outside of the bounds. Okay, so what I wanted to say was there's different types of thoughts. But we're not taught that. This is very freaking important right now. When I was locked up in the hospital, not knowing that I was special and that I was given a gift from our Creator, not that I was some deviant or some bad person, but actually had been blessed with a gift from our Creator. And I had a responsibility to cultivate that gift. But the people around me were not indoctrinated to the same type of thinking. As I just showed you in psychology, they're well aware of the way that we're programmed and geared towards social indoctrination. Okay? Now, psychology is something that I do for fun. I study for fun, human behavior, body language, and stuff like that. Sociology, anthropology, occult systems, symbols. Why? Because I too was once in a courtroom trying to figure out what happened. I want to cry when I see. And I wasn't really, I've seen this so many times, right? Little orange jumpsuits, and they're in court and they're sitting there looking all drugged up and totally out of their mind. And everything around them is just going on along with it, and they don't know. They don't know what happened. They don't know what hit them. Okay? That boy is sitting there trying to figure it out. If you know body language, and he's in between places like, they got me. But what happened? And fighting some kind of alternative force, some kind of demonic force. There's a lot going on inside of him while he's sitting there in a cage by himself, and everybody else is outside of it, just moving the process along. And he's forever lost in there, along with that other guy who did that theater shooting. And we had some other person just hit a mosque recently. So what's going on is we don't know ourselves. And there's being technology that is being used. Okay? Years ago when this happened to me, I didn't know about the different voices. There was nobody to tell me. So that's why I'm going to tell you. Okay? There's an ancestral voice. It's subtle. It's just in you. It's the kind of things that you enjoy. It's colors that you like. It's foods that you like. It's embedded inside your nature. It's things that speak through your blood. The music that speaks through your blood, that's ancestral. The song that your great-great-grandmother liked might still be ringing inside your, your being. Or maybe you even heard her listen to that song and it brings you comfort. It's embedded inside. There's an ancestral voice, things that speak directly to your blood, likes and dislikes, preferences. Spiritually, this is mentally, physically, and spiritually. So it could be your spiritual preferences, like your religion, your foods, your music, and the things that you love, things that you prefer. Ancestral voices. Crafts or music, cooking, things that you're geared to, just things that you're driven to do, that come from inside of you. Then there's the combination of things that I learned that I was just my own nature, my own personality. The part that's attached to my zodiac, like my own nature, being an Aquarius, what I want to do and what I don't want to do, what my personal preferences are from my own genetic makeup, outside of who my great-great-great-grandmother was, is just what I want to do and what I'm about. There's an intertwining, though. There's an enmeshment or overlapping in that area. Because many times we don't realize that the things that we're drawn to that we do that we think are our own or just our own thing are actually being initiated by the ancestral voice, right? There's things inside of us that need to come forth and be done. Things inside of our blood that were called forth by people praying, by people needing and wanting, by people putting spiritual energies into the ether, into the existence. Your grandmama's prayer, your mama's prayer, somebody's child that needed something. All this goes up into the ether. It's a part of our consciousness grid. And when the jet is activated and those requests come back as resources, like rain, like thoughts, thought constructs, right? We take them in, and depending on our spiritual nature, and depending on our placement within the zodiac, right? Those things which our crystalline nature will absorb according to our disposition, what we're able to pick up from the frequency. Not all of us are the same, right? We're not on the same vibe or frequency. It takes all type to make this clock work. Okay, so you have our own nature. That's the things that the TV shows we chose to watch, the people we chose to be around, the stuff we chose to ingest, depending on who we are. This is another overlapping. Within the things that we choose to absorb, to eat, right? You are what you eat. There's people who've been taking advantage of that. Hence, so we see the spiral effect in the embedding, the enmeshment, the technologies, right? The television, the mediums, media looking for a medium to exhort its ideas. So there's a platform that's using television and radio and film and books, right? Using certain medium, hearing, tasting. All your senses are mediums, pathways to receive information. And all the things that we do to extract that information are areas that can be exploited. The biggest form of the exploitation that these areas are using is our lack of the ability to reason that they're exploiting us. Our lack of ability to fathom that they're screwing with us, that they don't have our best interest in mind, that we need to be responsible for the things that we ingest. Dr. Phil Valentine will tell you that when you're watching movies, to take out a pen and paper and write down what it is you see, because of the left and right hemisphere of the brain and the way that we receive information. If we're not purposely going in aware that that can be exploited with your pen and paper to write down the things that we're seeing, things that they could be exploiting, then it could seep in through your unconscious mind. Those soldiers in Iran not knowing about voice and skull technology made it a lot easier for them to put down their weapons. If you know something is messing, has a capacity to mess with you, and it's not your normal repertoire, not in your normal bag, not your normal nature, then that might make you think about something before you do it. Think before you act. Think Think before you act. We're very impulsive. Been programmed to be the microwave age. They even programmed that microwave, the microwave age, microwave children. You want it quick fix. You want it now. How many different types of cereals do we have? How many different types of meats? How many different types of rices? How many different types of confusion? So many different types of choices. Do we know ourselves though? Like, we have all these choices. How many of us know ourselves? But we have a choice to know ourselves. Yeah, so they're clearly taking advantage of people, just like they took advantage of me. You know, and they take advantage of that learning curve. That part where we're children. We are in a space of a time of ascension. So all that stuff that we didn't know, that we're catching up on now. Okay, all this knowledge and stuff. The fact that they have voice-to-skull technology and can actually send your child messages. Another thing is bothering me is the desensitization of the youth. Like, we are treating 17 and 18, 16-year-olds, 15-year-olds like they're adults. I just saw a clip of a 15-year-old girl who met some guy online and went to visit him. And she was stabbed over 30 times, 40 times. 15-year-old baby. She had a body of a woman. She probably had notions. She thought she had the notions of a woman. To go track down a man, get with him from the internet. Isn't she programmed to do stuff like that from television? From television? Programming women or people to be a particular way. We have all this social media, so she goes and she travels over there. And she gets hurt. Indefinitely. This boy kills his two friends. So we're just told, we just get initiated, programmed to just go do any old thing, and we have no idea of the new technology that's out here, and we don't know ourselves. We're taught to be a carbon copy. A carbon copy is when you got to get old school. See, now we can take and we can copy, do a copy and paste, right? That's not the way that it used to be when you do typesetting. I worked in a newspaper. It was a Record Journal. It's no longer there anymore. It was married in Connecticut. I worked there for a period of time. I was taught how to typeset. In school, I tried many different types of crafts and stuff like that. But yeah, on craft setting, it was this, you have these clamps, and you take these letters and you put them in there, and then there's these little spaces, and it goes in backwards, and then when you, well, that's the printing machine. The ink goes on it, and then it goes on this wheel, and that's what prints books and newspapers. That's why the typeset on the old stuff, oh man, I have some too. Oh yeah. It looks a lot different and really cool. I know I have some. Yeah, yeah. Bam. This is the old stuff. This is the stuff that came out of the printer. See, now we have, do you see the way some of it kind of slightly raises in some places? You make a mistake there, boy. Whiteout was freaking golden. What? United Press International Service. Look at that. More than 300 Americans were killed and at least 2,000 wounded in the first week of the Communist General Offensive, U.S. military sources said Saturday. The losses were highest for any single week in 6 months. The number of communists dead in the past 7 days was placed at about 7,000. That's how we got our stuff. And it wasn't this mass production stuff that we see now. So we've gotten a lot better at sharing information that we want to share. Where is the rest of the information as common knowledge? As the lies that we've been listening to on voice-to-skull technology or satellite brain reading technology. Where is that stuff at, huh? To save our lives as a community. So, you know, we're taught to not know ourselves deliberately and to jump on the bandwagon and just be somebody else's interpretation of a human being. I've seen people live and die playing by other people's rules and not even know themselves. Literally, we're living and dying without even realizing what has happened to us, and that we've just been a catalyst for something else's ideas and to make money off of us our entire life. We made money for the doctor's office, for the psychiatrist's office. We made money for the judicial system. We made money for the schooling system. But you really didn't live. Really didn't live because you never were able to go out and explore your own interpretation of life or your own ideas. My own personal voice has the right to challenge and mull over all the other information that I come across. That's my opportunity to grow up, and it's also a necessary part. It's universal law that you have the right, every child has the right to grow up. And that's the way that we take our place and position into society. But if we don't know things, and we're being railroaded into believing that life is one way when it's actually totally different, and then these people come up and take advantage of our ignorance, of our lack of knowledge, our lack of knowing, our lack of the ability to be able to internalize and interpret. Our own thoughts, our own thoughts, our own feelings, our own desires. First, we've been shamed into even not acknowledging our own desires. I'm not saying that the desires are wrong from the get-go. But let's say, how can we figure out how to adjust them and how to make them the most optimal, holistic things that we can work with if we can't even openly discuss half of the stuff that's on our mind, half of the things that we're contemplating? because we're programmed to believe that it's not okay. If you got feelings of hurt and shame or jealousy, envy, you know those 7 deadly sins, those sins that kill, those shady things that we're not supposed to talk about that we feel. To say it's a part of human nature, right? It's a part of being alive. But everybody wants to shuck all those feelings off on someone else. But those feelings and emotions are obviously still killing people. Jealousy and the rage and the lust. Oh, but it doesn't apply to us. That's somebody else's bag, right? We don't got that. And that's how they're killing us. Because we do got that. That's the stuff that comes through the screen. Those are the demonic forces that penetrate into your light being, into your light body. Those are the infractions, the light codes that are contrary. Good day, my love. These are the light code frequencies that we don't want to admit that we're getting because they're dark. And so we don't want to admit that we know ourselves. So we get stressed out. And we get a little voice to skull technology. We see a little TV. Get a little envy. Next thing you know, pop off. Just pop off. And little do many of us know that it's like, we're like video games. It's not even that movie, you know, where you take and you have one night to kill everybody. The Purge is beyond the Purge. That's one night where they shut everything down and people just go for it, right? This is on a different level. This is a free-for-all to be able to play with people like they're robots, like they're video games, kind of like surrogate. Okay. The reasons why a lot of people don't spend their time talking about this stuff is because it's not the easiest thing to explain to people. And so you have your ancestral voice, like what kind of seasons and stuff like that are you using on your foods, things that are embedded inside of you. Then we have the social programming. Those are things that they throw at you and that they give us through mediums. And so we're also a medium. Like we absorb and then we project. Okay? We project what it is that we see, what we internalize. If we internalize pain, depending on what kind of being we are, we can project pain, or we can decide that because we've received pain, we want to internalize the medicine and we can project the medicine. This child that I saw has obviously received pain and projected pain. That was his indoctrination. The term social control. Why aren't we learning more about how to process our freaking thoughts? if the whole world is made as on a collection of ideas, and it all starts with a thought, then that should have been the first thing that we were taught to process, is how we think. And to learn to think for ourselves, to grow a desire to think for ourselves and not just take someone else's interpretation of what's going on. And to not make it so adversive when someone else has an opinion that's contrary to the general populace. Social control. It's been a while since I was floating around in these books. The term social control refers to the techniques and the strategies for preventing deviant human behavior in any society. Social control occurs on all levels of society. They say that they're doing it for your own good. Be all that you can be. We're going to steer you into the directions in which it's safe to think. Okay? Compartmentalize everything. Most of us respect and accept basic social norms and assume that others will do the same. Even without thinking, we obey the instructions of police officers, follow the day-to-day rules in our jobs, and move to the rear of elevators when people enter. Such behavior reflects an effective process of socialization to the dominant standards of culture. At the same time, we are all well aware of individuals and groups and institutions expect us to act properly. This exception carries within it sanctions, penalties, and rewards for conduct concerning social norms. If we fail to live up to the norm, we face punishment through informal sanctions such as fear, ridicule, or formal sanctions such as jail sentences or fines. In our minds, when something goes wrong, we automatically say, well, what'd they do? The cop just shot a 10-year-old boy in the head. What did he do? Well, he was playing with a toy gun in the park. Stop all the children from playing with toy guns. Don't teach the cop how to do his job better. How not to be so fearful. Do psychological studies where the officers that you pick are more inclined not to be so fearful of the public. Change the social dynamics of this particular thing that's becoming so offensive. Functions maintain the people must respect social norms if any group of or society is to survive. In their view, societies literally could not function for massive numbers of people defended standards of appropriate conduct. In contrast, conflict theories contend that the successful functioning of a society will consistently benefit the powerful and the work to the disadvantage of other groups. So social norms, I mean, it's known that they say, they have the saying, if one person says it, you can dismiss it. If two people say it, you can probably still say, who cares? You know, I'm going to do this over here my way. But if three people say it, that you should pay attention, right? But what if those three people have been indoctrinated and programmed because it's the social norm, and you're the one that thinks different? And knowing what we know now, that all of us are not made exactly the same. This is a part of our thinking. Some of us are pushers, initiators of thought. Some of us are absorbers and doers. Some of us can take a thought once it's initiated and turn it inside out and swag it. We are different, but made to utilize the same thing, which is society and culture, right? So we're many different parts of a whole. But something wanted to make us the same part. It fit holes into a square peg, you know? And the same way that they compartmentalized spiritual sciences into science and spirituality, we have some kind of entity that found it much easier to compartmentalize things, not only so it could understand and control us, but so that we would be marginalized and have a fractality when it came to understanding ourselves and how we think. How we think, how we move, why we move. We are accustomed to submitting to impersonal authority figures whose status is indicated by title, professor, lieutenant, doctor, or by a uniform, the technician's coat, because we view the authority as larger and most important than the individual. We shift our responsibility for our behavior to the authority figure. Informal social control, casually to enforce norms. Examples include smiles, laughter, raised eyebrow, and ridicule. Yeah. The social norms, Cedric said, so social norms are indeed controlled thinking, and if one is not in sync, then the observation may lead to ridicule. Yeah, absolutely. They use us to police each other. And this can be used in a way that's beneficial. Obviously, you know, when we thought that all the doctor's visits were good, and that's where your health is, you know, to have that information that the social norm is to go to the doctors is a good thing, right? We don't want everybody sick. Bring your butt to the doctors. You need to see the doc. But when the social norm becomes the fact that the doctor is not as informed as we thought he was, and maybe you should go over here to the healer. Maybe you should use some frequencies and vibrations. That is changing the social dynamics. Okay. Now, it's the knowledge of this and the way that we work that's being used against us when we entrust certain pharmaceutical companies or institutions, and we trust them because perhaps they have a symbol or a glyph that speaks to our ancestral memory, and we're not aware of it. We'll even override our own spiritual voice, override our own internal feelings, and go where we're told to go, even though something inside said don't. These are voices that are inside of us. I feel like I feel sorry for these people that are just popping off and going crazy. They don't know themselves. They cannot tell the difference between, and I couldn't tell. I know they can't tell who they are because I was there. I was there and could not tell the difference between the voice to skull technology, the implanted voices, the internal demons, the things that were put there, those voices inside of us that tell us we're not good enough because social sanctions have been implemented and we've been isolated. And so something inside starts to turn, trying to figure it out. Is it me? Did I do it? Why am I isolated? I must not be using the right deodorant. I must be something that I'm doing. Then you'll run and try to do all the things to correct it, and nothing will be good enough because you've already been sanctioned and set aside. And how that can turn somebody inside out. Not being aware of these things' existence is a technology that allows everybody around to think that the explanation of what that person did is the social norm idea. And that's not what's going on at all. We're being tricked and duped into not knowing ourselves and not wanting to know ourselves, not wanting to take the time to know ourselves. Because that would mean contrasting self truly against the person next to us. Like to actually, if all is self and I want to know myself and I've been getting extracting all my information off these mediums and these mediums are corrupt and faulty, then that means I have to reevaluate everything, and that's gonna be some work. Oh, here it is. Those individuals and groups with the greatest status and power define what is acceptable and what is deviant. For example, despite serious medical warnings against the dangers of tobacco made since 1964, cigarette smoking continued to be accepted for decades, in good part because of the power of tobacco farmers. The cigarette manufacturers, only after a long campaign led by public health and anti-cancer activists, did cigarette smoking become more of a deviant activity. Today, many state and local laws limit where people can smoke. While deviance can include relatively minor day-to-day decisions about our personal behavior, in some cases it can become part of a person's identity. This process is called stigmatization. Those are your, what do you call it, subcultures. Some of these groups we call subcultures, okay? Physical or behavioral characteristics some people are unwilling to cast in negative social roles. Once they have been assigned to a deviant role, they have trouble presenting a positive image to others, and may even experience low self-esteem when they try to do that. You know what I'm saying? Stigma to describe the label society uses to devalue members of certain social groups. Goffman, this is the example they use, Goffman 1963, Heckart and Best in 1997, prevailing expectations about beauty and body shape may prevent people who are regarded as ugly or obese from advancing as rapidly as their abilities permit. What am I getting at? Just the way that we think. Our programming is off. Often people are stigmatized for deviant behaviors they may no longer engage in. A person's need not be guilty of a crime to be stigmatized. Homeless have trouble getting jobs because employees are wary of applicants who cannot give a home or address. That is also still going on right now with California. Some of the research I was doing, looking at the videos, that some of the people who are displaced cannot get help because they don't have an address. Isn't that something? They're still getting taxed on their houses, and the government still wants their money and is not making allowances for this catastrophe. This is from what I'm seeing. Because online communication offers a high degree of anonymity, uncivil behavior, speaking harshly of others, or monopolizing chat, those things can happen. Anyway, so this child that we saw from this clip as being considered deviant. No, that's not the child that was... Oh, that's not... I don't know what happened here.
I just tried that Amazon hack that
Nope. That's not what I wanted to do. The kid that I was showing you from my Facebook, that was in the courtroom. That was just really sad. So he's totally unaware of what happened to him. He's probably has some voice-to-skull technology or some kind of some other influences. I'm getting some interference also right now. I have been for a little bit. So this this child has probably been denying his own feelings and thoughts and not having anybody to speak to about what was going on in his brain. You go to church and they say they're the 7 deadly sins, right? And there's certain things you can pray or you make changes in your life to get rid of them. You may go in a different step and do some kind of self-help group, and they tell you, do these steps, do X, Y, and Z, and you can get rid of them. It may not still happen for you, so you go to psychology, and they say, don't worry about it. It's an infraction on your brain. Take this pill, or go over here and do X, Y, Z, and it should get better for you. And the whole time, you're not aware that you've been programmed into not knowing that these things that are happening to you are not even your fault, that you're being artificially inseminated with thoughts that are not yours. So how can you tell the difference between your own thoughts and someone else's, some implanted thoughts? Well, for one thing, we have to start spending time with ourselves. We want too much to be a part of and afraid to be set aside. It's the being set aside and spending time with the Creator, not listening to somebody tell you about what God said, what God is going to do for you, and what God already said in the Bible, and interpreting it for you. But for us to spend time to do that alone and let the Creator speak to us and the way that it speaks to us, not someone else's interpretation, to be in a place where you don't freaking really understand what it means and to figure that out. To sit with the material yourself and mull it over and be in a space of confusion and let it click. Pow! It's got to click. If it didn't click, you don't know. You're only regurgitating. We're only being and sounding a sounding board for somebody else's interpretation. Flow and meditation is very important. Getting into information and not knowing what the blip they're talking about is important. It's important to be in a space where I don't know what the heck you're talking about. And I want to know. I want to figure it out. I want it to click, to pop. I want a spark to go off. I want the the uh-huh. The oh yeah. I want to consummate. I want to get intimate with myself, with my thoughts. I can't get close to you. I can't know you. I can't get intimate with you if I haven't been with myself yet. So know thyself. Know thyself is not the medium. It's only a bridge way to be able to capture something in the same way that it all starts with a thought. I am being hit so hard with electrical frequencies right now. My head feels like it's going to explode. It really hurts right now. And the unusual loud talking that has been being done lately near my window. Maybe it's just that I switched the room, but I don't think so. Because, yeah. And I know it is because you can see like it's so tight. Ugh. Yeah, so to know thyself. I know myself. And it's my pleasure and at times aggravation to let you get to know me, because all is self, right? I'm an aspect of you, an angle of you. I wish this headache would calm down. Knowing myself allows me to know when I'm being hit with an electronic frequency weapon, because I know myself. I've also done the research to know how the freaking things work. I've also searched out to find out how sharing is caring, and other people have shared their same experience with these same kind of issues, so they can tell you what it feels like. For instance, knowing thyself, electronic frequencies and your metabolic field. This is difficult. I've been hearing these same teenagers or younger people, like, because I was just trying to ignore it before. There's loud talking outside the window, and that's been happening a lot lately. A group of youths, they're very, and just, I know it's the gang stalking and the street performing stuff. It wasn't there before, and this is normally a quiet neighborhood. So some of the activity that's been happening lately is not normal. Like the bum sleeping in the trailer across the street from, in the back of the bar. That's not normal, okay? Especially with the realtor agency that we rent the house from. That guy is always checking out whose car is that? Oh, I looked in my camera and I saw this truck sitting here. Do you know that truck? We never have visitors, so why are you asking about a truck? If it's not just to let us know that you have the cameras there, because you know we don't hardly have any visitors. So why would you be asking me about a truck? Roll your camera back and find out who got out the freaking truck. Cops there all the time. Somebody mess with the door or whatever. Every time something happens, the cops just pop up. You can see my live feed where I was dancing and see, you know what I'm saying, certain times when things like that happen. But the bum sleeping in the trailer across the street in the parking lot, oh no, he can stay. He can stay. Put shopping carts all over the place and be walking back and forth all hours of the night. Oh, well, the property owner, the bar owns that property, and they said he could stay. Yeah, but I know law and about housing law. That's not a housing property. He's not supposed to be able to stay. It's a industrial. If it's a neighborhood and you have to pay rent, there's certain laws between businesses and residences. Okay? That guy is supposed to go and get help for housing like anybody else. Not be a threat to me and my children and my house. So there's these other added facets that weren't there before, you know, like that guy, you know, and loud, youthful people saying things that are connecting to other stuff. So that's the street performance and the other stuff. And it only starts happening when I'm online. That's the other correspondence. Know thyself. Is it only in my head? Well, that unanswered question would leave me to be the one to have to go do the research, right? Know thyself. Did it pop? Or is it just something that I'm trying to tell myself? And that's the whole facet that I have to go through with everything. With everything that I have been through. Oh, that's a little better. Just a little. So to know thyself. To get to the place where I wanted to do the work and not deny myself. Yes, I have a problem with X, Y, and Z. You know, just go in and change it. Yes, commercial properties. They have different rules. You're not supposed to have anybody living, you know, on your commercial property. And you certainly can't live in a freaking trailer in back of it. And with all the cops and all these, you know, different surveillances and stuff, this guy was able to just sit there. And I saw the lineup for the kind of crap that you saw, you know, they set stuff up where they could say that the homeless person or the crazy person just popped off. But they actually set up scenarios to put the person in a situation to attack people. They set them off. They sick them on people. Okay. Routine activities theory. Routine activities theory contends that criminal victimization increases when motivated offenders and suitable targets coverage. It goes without saying that you cannot have a car theft without automobiles, but the greater availability of more valuable automobiles to potential thieves heightens the likelihood to that such a crime will occur. Yeah. So to set up situations. This is psychology. There's another book down there, sociology, to separate our spiritual sciences into ways where we're not understanding what it is that's happening around us. So someone else has the upper hand and can always forever call us a child and capable of comprehending and understanding, governing your environment, because you don't really know what's going on. Don't really know ourselves. To thine own self be true. Am I capable of hate, lying and stealing and rage and jealousy? Am I capable? If I seen it, if I had a corresponding frequency, yeah, I'm capable. I'm also capable of cleansing myself of it, of purging myself of it. So when I went to these other places and you're stuck, I was full with these things we call deadly sins, or I was full with these things that we call infractions. I wasn't supposed to have them. I wasn't supposed to be experiencing them. They were identified as spiritual infractions or mental incapacities. And I trusted the establishment to be able to find a clear path, right? That's what we do. So we trust the church, and we trust the psychiatry, and we trust the pills, and we trust the doctors. And we think that they have our best interest in mind. And perhaps the ones that took up that profession do, but without realizing that they've separated our spiritual sciences. And so we don't know ourselves and how to allow ourselves to be honest and tap into the inner voice. We're afraid to be deviant. We're afraid to be rebels. The rebel feels alienated from the dominant means and goals and may seek a dramatically different social order. Members of a revolutionary political organization such as a militia group can be categorized as rebels according to Metatron's model. Metatron's theory, through popularity, has had relatively few applications. The retreatist has basically redrawn or retreated from both the goals and the means of society. In the United States, drug addicts are vagrants. Drug addicts and vagrants are typically portrayed as retreatists. Concern has been growing that adolescents who are addicted to alcohol will become retreatists at an early age. Isn't that fond of them to be so concerned about the youth? And that's why they're categorizing who's going to go to jail and who's going to be worthy. They're doing that in grade school and elementary school. Sizing them up. Sizing them up. Who's sizing them up? People that don't even know themselves, that are already captivated by the lies that society has indoctrinated us with. Telling us that everybody should think alike, be alike, you know. And anybody that's questioning the system seems to be getting marginalized. They're the ones that were the crackpots, the theorists, the, what do you call them? The conspiracy theorist. Well, it's not a conspiracy anymore, darling. We didn't know ourselves, and they were using the space where there was the darkness, where things were elusive, where things were fuzzy, where we just didn't know. We didn't know what they were doing, using those spaces against us. My head is hurting so freaking bad. Can you talk when somebody's beating you in the head with a freaking hammer or a sledgehammer? You pretty much be in a position like, no, stop. Oh. You ever see that in a movie? Where the guy's getting the crap beat out of him with a hammer, and all you could do is basically at one point be like, you win. But I'm going to keep going. Knowing yourself. To know yourself, you got to get in a space of flow. I went to those people, and I went to those doctors, and I went to those facilities. Dog. I have the noisy youth, and I have the sledgehammer. It feels like it's in my brain. Cute. Okay, so excuse me, I just needed to take a minute. This is kind of hard to get through today. Okay. Why am I continuing? Because I know that there's people like me out there who's also being attacked by this hidden hand that's not hiding so much anymore. Okay, so there was a time when things got really freaking confusing and very sad. Okay, I didn't know myself. I thought that all the things that I was being filled with and that were coming out me were me, and it wasn't. After years of investigating myself first, always start with self, things did not add up. And that's when I started seeing that the system was designed to hold this illusion that people like myself were sick into place, okay? And in some instances, we were being bent and warped, like MK victims, into instruments, tools, to be able to hold this whole thing in place. For instance, you can send somebody into a mosque, you know, or to do damage to someone else if you could push them with their MK, you know, with the electronic frequencies and stuff, you know. And if you don't know yourself, you might tend to think that the ideas and thoughts in your head to go do certain things are you. The things that I hear floating through the airways are incredible. Oh my gosh. And if it's a matter of, you gotta give me a second. Okay, so some of us can hear the stuff that's going on, going through the airways. Because we're built like that. We can hear the ideas, you call it clairvoyance if you like. And you could say that voice to skull technology was like mimicking the creator's gift of clairvoyance that he gives to some people, that some organization or group has been using to hurt people. I'm going to keep going, first of all, because I'm freaking stubborn like that. And because the more you do it, the more I know I'm on the right freaking path that needs to be done. And because it hurts so many people with this technology, we need to learn more about it. We need to talk about this. So, what it's meant to do is make certain people look disenfranchised or crazy, to look scattered, to look like they don't have all their ducks in a row, like they're missing marbles or something. But in actuality, they're being tampered with, and their very nature is being tampered with. So you could have children or nephews or friends, family members that are going through this. Heck, you could be one of the people going through it and not even realize it, because you don't know yourself. You don't know your own body's natural rhythms. For instance, does your 10-year-old know what the weather was like in 1970? No. So they have nothing to compare it to. They might be able to say, when I was 9, winter was a lot colder. And now they said it was supposed to be cold, and it's not. But I remember it's supposed to be cold around this time. They might be able to do something like that. So it's us who's been around. It's the time that's able to give a more accurate determination regarding the wisdom needed pertaining to the changes that have been happening when we're talking about this new technology. With all the new technology, I wonder how the children are going to know themselves now. They haven't had time to be outside like we were, look in each other's eyes. They're really cranking it up. Oh my gosh. Maybe I should shut my window. Feels like nothing there between this house and that house, but this house and a bush. But yeah, so I'm talking about this right now, and knowing myself allows me to continue, even though I know this broadcast probably sounds really sporadic, but that's the whole point that I'm trying to make. The whole time that I'm talking to you, I'm being attacked by the same weaponry that I'm trying to explain to you. I've had messages sent. I've had noise distractions, street performances, and the electronic frequency weapon, like, big time on my head. And it scatters your thoughts. And for those of you who know that I'm a quick thinker, a deep thinker, notice the differences. This is what they can do. But because I know myself, I know that this is interference. Because you have seen me, if you're witty and you can look back and you can see the differences, you should be able to tell that there's a discrepancy and there's something. Even in the way that I'm talking right now, it sounds like I'm a little drunk or something. I notice my mouth is a little different. I'm noticing more of the details that happen with the technology and report them just like the people who did it for me, so that I know that it's not me. And if we're not able to talk about it, then we're not able to define it. If we're too ashamed of it, then we can't acknowledge it. And that's how children like the one I showed you in the beginning of this video end up getting caught out and sitting in court with a whole orchestra of people around him, allowing that to happen. And they don't even know what hit them. That child, that boy, was probably showing symptoms and signs of interference and stuff going on with him way before he ended up killing his two friends. That boy who killed that 15-year-old, that 21, 22-year-old man who killed that 15-year-old child, that young girl, was probably showing signs way before. But they lied to us and tell us the signs are something that they're not. They're purposely messing and tampering with people. I'm not saying that there are not people that are mentally ill. What I'm saying is that that department has been just as corrupted as Big Pharma. and keeping people sick in order to make money is being vamped. You could look at it like the owners of certain institutions are governing certain facets of our society that we've been using as tools to eradicate the undesirables, are actually the undesirables themselves. You know what I'm saying? Like, we've been caught. We've been duped. For instance, war on drugs. But you're the drug pusher. This is your brain. This is your brain on drugs. This is your brain. Now, my brain is not a fried egg, lady. This is your brain. So you're telling me before anybody takes drugs, this is your brain. Your brain is an egg. And you're taking that brain and you're going to put it in the frying pan, and that's your brain on drugs. What about your brain on false, bad information? What about your brain on technology? What about your brain on MK? What about your brain on radio waves? What about your brain after it's been fried with a handheld module? Because that would be the government and the things that they produced to be able to police the citizens of society. Now, somewhere along the line, the people that were trying to help us have a better world became the enemies, because the people who were holding the present world into place turned into vampires. And they need to keep things segmented. They need to keep science and spirituality spiritual. And as long as we keep doing that, as long as we keep not breaking their narrative, they have the upper hand, because that's the agreement, that's a cosign. And they don't like to think, they just like to have everything categorized. See, they get their thoughts from a hierarchy. They're just initiating what it is they're told to do. So they can't answer your questions and don't want you challenging them with questions. I found out from going to school, when you have, not all professors and teachers are like this. Some of them actually like to think and rearrange new things. However, I think they get attacked a lot by the drones next to them that are programmed not to think and just initiate whatever it is in the book. It all comes out in the wash anyway, because eventually it has to change, or the other stuff doesn't work. The new stuff they want to initiate doesn't work. Next to, or on the back side of the ignorance that they laid out for us. So you can't have wisdom or platforms that call for wisdom, for thinking, for people to initiate those things, when they're coming from a platform where you were supposed to be ignorant. So this is clashing. This is clashing. Okay. So, if you haven't got it, part of the confusion which led me into these other areas was not knowing myself and believing that there was nothing else there, that there was no other alternative. I didn't know anything about a shaman. I didn't know anything about spiritual healers, the Tao. I didn't know anything about I was going to say witch doctors, but I didn't want to use the word witch. Some of our ancestral mentors or advisors, our ancestral advisors that are aware of the unsanctioned materials that are already being used contrary to our knowledge against us. All the occult symbolism and stuff around us. The fact that Washington DCA is laid out to be able to extract information, extract spiritual essence. That's what I wanted to say. I want to end this feed so bad. Oh my gosh. But I haven't said what I wanted to say. Outside all that noise is the place where we need to get. Outside all these words that I've been using, the bottom line is the tools is to know thyself. The tools is to be able to find your center, like I'm doing now, regardless of what's happening to me, what's being said to me and pressed upon me. My essence is, I know my essence. So know thyself. To know thyself is my connection with my Creator. It's a clear line, cannot be effed with. That's cultivated. That purges all other nonsense that comes at me, because it's just about me and my Creator. I decide what those things are. That's your biggest tool, asset, is to be able to find a place of flow, that place where you're truly you. So that place is where I get my messages from. It's fire, water, earth, air, and ether. What we're composed of. The root part of our essence. So all these other tools and things, these constructs that are put in my path, are only temporary and can't last, are not pure. But fire, water, earth, air, and ether are pure, and the time that I spend with them. The time that I spend with essence and spend with myself outside of performing, meaning living up to the social standards of what everybody else would want for me. I am totally scattered right now. That's where you have to get into a place where you just don't care. Or actually, it's not that you don't care, but to focus in on what is most important is the essence, is fire, water, earth, air, and ether. Why I am not in that place where I'm sitting in a courtroom looking like that poor child is only because I know that I'm connected to so much greater, and I've spent the time to quiet my spirit, make myself raw, allow myself to be pure spirit. I am not trying to impress you. I'm saving my life. I'm sharing my essence. I'm saving someone else's life right now. Allowing myself to be a soundboard for the truth is not being a sacrifice. By fighting through this experience in hopes that someone else going through the same thing can see what it is that I'm going through. And my body is shaky, so I have this frequency, like it totally shook my whole freaking frame. It went from the headache that felt like somebody was just smashing my head in with a hammer, which I still have, to shaking my frame, to my thoughts being scattered. There was also periods in there where voice to skull technology, where thoughts were being implemented, like all the thoughts that would tell me what you're probably thinking right now, or that I should be quiet because I didn't sound so professional, didn't sound buttoned up and polished, straighten up and fly right kind of thing. The stuff that we're indoctrinated into believing is the real stuff. The people that we should trust and all that kind of stuff, because it looks packaged in a particular way. But it's not real at all. Many times it's sanctioned. And so this is the real stuff. I was trying to talk about knowing our own inner voice, you know, the difference between physical, spiritual, and mental. The difference between what society tells us, what we're indoctrinated into, who we are as individuals, what we choose to abstract out of the different mediums. So we choose to extract certain things out of the mediums because of who we are. And within ourselves, we're already bringing who we are through our ancestral memory that a lot of us fight have been blocked off, or we're told not to heed or pay attention to. Go to church. The dead is the dead. You can't speak to the dead, and so on. So we're looking at the whole experience differently. And then we have all the stuff that has been programmed into us that we've been told that we have to follow, that must follow the laws of the land and all that kind of stuff. This is A, and this is what B is, and this is what C is. The social sanctions, like we all co-sign what our environment wants to look at. I mean, what we want our environment to look like, and how we want to interpret the people, places, and things within our environment. If their pants is sagging, what does that mean? If she's got on red lipstick, what does that mean? If he's got on a white lab coat, what does that mean? If they drive a good car, what does that mean? If they have a good job, what does that mean? What does it all mean? What are the messages attached to those things? Does that business or that white coat mean that that person has a moral foundation? Or does that mean that they've collected enough know-how to be able to orchestrate themselves into business? I mean, how much does that mean? Are we using our own brains and our own being to interpret what things mean? I'll keep talking until my freaking head bust open if I had to. I don't give two blips. I've been here. You have no idea what I've been through. None. And it's really difficult to keep my cool right in the face. This is the weird Nazi paperclip thing. None of this makes sense. There's nothing to look at. But like if I open my window right now, that's all I can see. That's all I can see. This house is taller than mine's next door. They can't see anything. But this house, that's a little shorter than theirs next door. But that's the next door that I be saying that I'm getting a lot of garbage and, you know, and there's the one across the street. And I go through days like this and you know that, that's the plug. That's the plug. I want you to go off and do something stupid. Making the association between that house and certain situations and what I'm going through by way of voice to skull technology and experiences, the street performances. There was something I was trying to read in here about stressors. Stress. It was okay, so it says deviance helps to define the limits of proper behavior. I was trying to find the space where it was talking about how stress, informal social control casually to enforce norms, examples to include smiles, laughter. I read that part already. Well, there was a part in here that was talking about stress and how stress had a lot to do with how people interact with each other. Yeah, I am going to end this. Sometimes my stubbornness is good. It helps me survive. I'd much rather live. I got ringing in my ear on top of everything else. So what they do with the people who don't fit into their agreement or program is do crap like this so that you seem scattered and not all tailored and stuff, to where what we like is for things to seem all figured out and clean cut and stuff, clear. We want to be given everything, right? The microwave age. But that's not the way that this is going to work out for us if we really want to get better and correct ourselves. We need to think. We need to take the time to assess and actually look at what it is we're experiencing and going through, and do the research and make better decisions. If anything, what's happened is counterproductive, because I meant to do exactly what I did, was to make a video on the different types of voices to inform other targeted individuals or people out there who don't even realize that they're being targeted individuals. They're programming people to go crazy so that they can use them for various different things. And in doing that, I got hit by the same kind of stuff that I was trying to inform you about, which made my message extremely sporadic and nutso. But if you know me from watching, if you've seen other broadcasts where I've spoken, then you should know that this one is definitely a doozy. And no, I'm not high or drunk. I'm thinking. Thoughts do that. They make chemical reactions, but in between the thoughts is all the stuff that probably happened to that kid that you saw in that courtroom, to that other one that went in the mosque, to that kid that killed that 15-year-old girl, to that man who shot all those people up, went in a movie theater. Remember that? So we have people doing things and causing. We have people doing things to others in our society and our culture. For a person with an extravagant vocabulary, all of a sudden I can't think of the words I was using for that. Like, Vsauce did this show one time where he locked himself in a room for a certain amount of time, because if you're, what was it, over 3 days, if you're, I don't know, if you lock yourself away in a room for a certain amount of time, you start to go crazy. And it was the episode where I was cracking up because, yeah, his experiment really went, like, you could tell that it, yeah, he went a little nuts, you know what I'm saying? But he used himself as an experiment to show us that alchemically, after a certain amount of time, when you're locked away and you have no one else to talk to in a closed environment, that your brain does certain things. So there's people who know the science of the brain already, know the way that this thing works. It's tripped out. It does a lot of like weird stuff, right? And this body is like a locked room. If there's nobody else that you can freaking sound off on, nobody else can hear you. It's kind of like that. But thank goodness that there's people out there that can hear me. You'd have to be like me in order to know what I'm talking about. And if you're not, please freaking do your research. Don't just think that I'm a wackadoo, okay? Go and look at something else and then say, what the freak is going on? And then go and look up voice-to-skull technology. Go and look up satellite brain reading technology. Go and look up mind control. Go and look up gang stalking. Go and look up human trafficking. Go and look up quantum D-wave mechanics, computers. Go and look up cloning. Handheld frequency modules. All that stuff that I was talking about. Street performances. Go and look up that. Yeah, go and look that stuff up and save your life, save your child's life, save your nephew's life, save your neighbor's life if you're not a part of it. You know, being aware that this is going on can help safeguard you. Now, there's things that I could have done that I actually don't have the resources for at the moment. Using frequencies to fight frequencies is one of the things that you can do, but I wouldn't advise doing that while you're doing a live feed, because then they might just use those the space that they have to just take your stuff because you're using music now. And so no matter what you talked about, they just, you know, they're just doing all kinds of tactics to slow me down and make things more confusing about sharing, and I'm already like technologically trying to catch up to this technology age and all that kind of stuff, so it could make it adversive for me to put my stuff out there and to interact with you online, trying to figure out how to make certain things work sometimes, and because of things getting cut off and you know, like them cutting off my live feed and using electronic harassment and stuff like that. Informing you is part of my medicine as Siren Buddha medicine, using talk therapy, just being a woman in your culture. You know, all is self. I'm you, and you're definitely me. And we use the same things, the facilities. We need the same things: water, clean air, food, access to those things, and health and safety. I mean, we can get that right too. You know what I'm saying? Trying to think of if there's anything else that I can say to try to redeem this cast. Redeem this cast. And it really bothers me when they do that stupid thing where you get these stupid jabbing, sharp, stabbing freaking sensations in different parts of your body. Like right now, it's my foot. And you see people, like I already know the way it looks because from doing my research, I've already run into people who this happened to them while they were doing their broadcast, and you're like, oh, that looks a little crazy. What the heck is wrong with them? Well, when you get to the point where you know what's happening to them, then you're with me. Because that's what they do to people who are trying to fix the problem. This is Regina's Rabbit Hole. Much love to you and yours.